He got hit with the right hand, but it was on the right eye. Split his eye open. At the end of the 4th round, the doctor came in and he looked at me and he says, I don't like the way his eye's looking. I think we should stop the fight. He was the champion. He had been fighting with that eye for the entire fight. I looked at him, I said, Doc, he just won that last round. I don't think we need to stop this fight.
Jon Jones was busted up and kept moving forward, pleaded with the doctor not to stop it in the 5th.
So much chaos. Could you even remember what had happened over the last?
Herb Dean just admitted he saved Jon Jones from losing his world title. And what he's revealing will blow your mind, because this isn't some internet conspiracy or casual fan speculation. This is coming directly from the mouth of the legendary referee, who was standing right there in the octagon during what many consider Jones' most brutal, career-defining war. We're talking about UFC 165 against Alexander Gustafsson, and Dean is essentially telling us that Bones Jones, the guy so many argue is the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, was literally seconds away from an embarrassing, potentially legacy-destroying loss. Here's the kicker that makes this absolutely insane. It was only Herb Dean's personal intervention, his split-second decision in that moment, that prevented this catastrophic outcome from happening. And get this, Dean admits he personally dislikes Jones as a person, yet he still made the choice that saved his career. Tonight we're diving deep into the infamous fight that nearly broke Jones, dissecting every controversial decision, and uncovering the completely untold story of how the most dominant light heavyweight champion was legitimately saved from devastating defeat.
I believe that this is one of those fights where both guys felt like they were going to die. I don't know if I can continue. I don't know if I can keep doing this.
Tell you what, we're going to let the fight go on. And if I see that cut change at all, I'll stop the fight. For myself, I'm thinking I am never stopping this fight. So that's how much I hated Jon. Basically put my butt on the line because it was the right thing to do.
The 4th and 5th round, I pulled from something that I didn't know I had inside of me.
This right here is the exact pivotal moment Dean is talking about, and you need to understand just how insane this situation was. Picture this scenario. You've got J.N. Jones, a fighter known worldwide for making his opponents look helpless, and now he's severely compromised, bleeding badly, his face split wide open with a cut so serious that the ringside doctor is literally ready to wave off the fight and call it right there. Think about the immense pressure in that situation, the weight of everything riding on this decision. The commentary team is describing both fighters as completely busted up, pushed to their absolute limit, drained and damaged beyond belief. This wasn't some superficial scratch that needed a bit of Vaseline. We're talking about a potentially fight-ending injury that absolutely demanded medical evaluation. Jones was legitimately on the brink of having his title reign ended by doctor stoppage. And here's where it gets wild. The ringside physician had already made the call to stop it. The medical professional whose job it is to protect fighters had seen enough. But then Herb Dean stepped in.
Saw 3 Jones out there.
Gustafsson is hurt, and he looks for the spin again. Gustafsson's busted up now. Final seconds of the round. Flying knee.
Forever now I do know what I'm like when things get tough.
Gustafsson looks to take Jones out. Nice uppercuts. Those punches are busting up the mouth of Jon Jones. Nice elbows. Head kick. Big head kick. Gustafsson just put his hands on his hips like he was exhausted. Another head kick. Both of these guys are pushed to their limit in this fight. Spin.
Now listen to this part, because it's absolutely chilling when you really process what's being said. Herb Dean, one of the most respected referees in all of mixed martial arts, explicitly states his personal dislike for J.N. Jones as a person. Let that sink in for a second. This referee is admitting on record that he doesn't like the champion standing in front of him. Yet despite these personal feelings, despite whatever history or opinions he had about Jones outside the cage, he made the conscious choice not to stop the fight. Even more incredibly, he went directly against the doctor's initial assessment, overruling the medical professional's recommendation to wave it off. His internal monologue that he shares, where he says, "I'm never stopping this fight," reveals the incredible conviction that was required in that high-stakes moment with millions watching. He literally put his reputation on the line for Jones, risked his career despite their personal history, because he believed it was the right thing to do for the sport. This is undeniable proof that the referee truly saved Jones from what would have been a TKO loss that would have gone down in history.
His victory against Gustafsson solidifies the Jones family as one of the most prolific in American sports history. The same year, his older brother Arthur wins the Super Bowl, while his younger brother...
But here's where this story gets even crazier. To understand why Jones was able to survive that moment, you have to go back to his origins, and what you'll discover is absolutely mind-blowing. The man who would eventually become arguably the most dominant UFC champion in the light heavyweight division started his wrestling career with a 5-35 record. Let me repeat that. 5 wins, 35 losses. This proves beyond any doubt that he wasn't some naturally gifted prodigy who won everything from day one. This underdog story, coupled with the intense sibling rivalry he experienced growing up, shows us exactly where his relentless drive and incredible toughness were forged. His father's hardcore coaching style and his mother's philosophy of one fight, we all fight, instilled this fierce, no-quit attitude in all the Jones brothers from a very young age. This wasn't just about developing athletic skills. This was about creating a mentality where failure simply wasn't an option. Understanding this background makes it so much easier to comprehend why Jones, even with a split eye gushing blood and a body completely depleted of energy, would absolutely refuse to let a doctor stop his fight.
Record was 5-35. I got my butt whooped. I was never the strongest, never the fastest, never had the best physique.
I thought, though, they called you Bones because you broke people's bones. But apparently they said it's because your brothers used to call you Skin and Bones?
Yeah, I was so skinny. My wrestling coach gave me the nickname of Bones, yeah.
No, it's just always been a great competition growing up to be the best. And
everything was a competition. You know, we were running around the house. Who could open the refrigerator the fastest? Who could drink the most milk?
But they'd be so mad. They come home, there's holes in the walls, furniture broken.
Hold up, because there's something way deeper that shaped Jones into this warrior mentality. Beyond the physical training and competitive upbringing, there's a profound personal tragedy that affected his entire worldview. Losing a sister to brain cancer at such a young age, especially a sister who seemed to embody perfection in his eyes, is an unimaginable burden for anyone to carry. This deep-seated pain and direct experience with loss undoubtedly contributes to his mental fortitude and unique perspective when he steps into that octagon. It's a sobering reminder that there's so much more to a fighter than just their in-cage performance or highlight reel knockouts. There's a whole human being with experiences and trauma behind that persona, and it offers another powerful layer of understanding as to why Jones would genuinely rather risk everything than give up when things get tough. His faith became his anchor through these struggles, specifically his battles with alcohol-fueled anxiety that he's dealt with throughout his life. The Philippians 4:13 tattoo on his body, "I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength," isn't just some random Bible verse. It's a fundamental belief system that fuels his resilience when everything seems impossible.
We would butt heads a lot. He was a guy who was so passionate about us succeeding in sports to the point where he made wrestling this competition for us, where he would give us $6 if we got a pin, $2 if we won, in the finals.
my mom was really the bully of the family. That's where John get it from.
She's the strong one of the household. I think she wears the pants.
My mom always taught us one fight, we all fight. So we jumped a lot of people growing up.
And get this part of his journey that sounds almost too crazy to be true. From being a college dropout with no clear direction to aspiring to be a janitor just to make ends meet, Jones faced judgment and doubt from peers who were following traditional paths. The embarrassment he felt, the real shame of having to tell his friends that he wanted to be a cage fighter while they were pursuing college degrees and normal careers, showcases his unique vision when nobody else believed. This period of uncertainty and making unconventional choices that people questioned hardened his resolve like steel, making him fiercely determined to prove everyone wrong. But here's what separates Jones from other fighters who had tough upbringings. He didn't just rely on natural toughness. He actively sought out knowledge on self-belief, confidence, and what it truly means to be a winner at the highest level. This wasn't just physical training in the gym. This was deliberate, intentional reprogramming of his mindset, rewiring his brain to think like a champion. His mission to prove doubters wrong, fueled by motivational figures like Tony Robbins and powerful books like Relentless by Tim Grover, demonstrates an unshakable belief in himself that's necessary for greatness. This psychological warfare he waged on himself before ever stepping into the cage is exactly why he refused to let a cut or exhausted body stop him against Gustafsson.
My life wasn't always great, man. Being molested as a child, losing a parent and a sibling to disease at a young age. It goes on and on. I got things I need to deal with.
You and your family have dealt with some pretty real stuff, including the loss of your sister.
I had a sister who passed away when she was 18 years old. She had brain cancer. You know, to see a girl who kind of seemed flawless to me at the time. You know, she was only 18 when she died, and she was a part of the church. She was a part of our choir. She was on the high school basketball.
Now here's the kicker that ties this all together. The commentary team during that fight described the scene with words like both fighters busted up, talking about how both guys were pushed to their absolute limit, completely drained and damaged. You can hear the brutal elbows landing, the impact of head kicks connecting, and see Gustafsson's complete exhaustion, his body language showing he's running on empty. It all underscores just how close Jones was to being physically unable to continue. The referee's decision wasn't about saving a fighter from some minor scratch that looked worse than it was. This was about letting a seriously compromised champion, who was badly hurt and depleted, continue competing in what turned out to be one of the most brutal battles in UFC history. And that's when Jones' cleaner mentality kicked in. This mindset isn't just about winning once or being good for a season. It's about the relentless, unyielding pursuit of being the absolute best, constantly pushing boundaries like legends Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant did in basketball. Jones' ambition isn't mere greatness or being remembered as a good fighter. It's absolute dominance, being so far ahead that there's no question who the best is.
But then you gotta
pick and choose, right? What you want to listen to.
You know, I wear this tattoo on my chest, Philippians 4:13, that I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And I genuinely believe that I can do anything.
Coming out of high school, I started drinking in high school, and I always felt like I needed alcohol to be cool or to conquer anxiety. Well, I was kind of more reserved, you know, trying to figure out who I was going to be as a person and where my place was in this world. During the lunch breaks, I didn't really have a huge group of friends, so I would find myself standing there talking to the security officer, and I just became infatuated with the job that he had. You know, I thought it was awesome. And I thought to myself, you know, these people are stand-up individuals. You know, people look up to them, they're helping others, they're being...
So there you have it. A referee who personally disliked Jon Jones made a split-second decision that saved his career and changed MMA history forever. This wasn't just luck or favoritism. This was about recognizing a warrior's mentality forged through personal tragedy, brutal training, and an unshakable belief system. The fight went the full 5 rounds and is now rightfully remembered as one of the greatest title fights in UFC history. But it almost never happened because Jones was seconds away from a doctor stoppage that would have completely altered his legacy. Here's my question for you. Drop it in the comments. Do you think Herb Dean made the right call, or should the doctor's initial assessment have stood? Was this controversy, or was this recognizing true championship heart? If this breakdown opened your eyes to what really happened that night, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell because we're diving into more untold stories that will change how you see your favorite fighters. I'll see you in the next one.
Suddenly, I'm a dropout. A few months after I was done with school, you know, I was a bouncer for a while. I was looking for some jobs and some opportunities, and I'm working at a bar.
And I was applying to be a janitor because I would have benefits.
I'm telling people that I want to be a UFC fighter. You know, it was kind of embarrassing in some ways. I'm running into all these kids my age. John, you know, I thought you were in college. It's like, oh, well, actually, you know, I thought I'd try the fighting thing. You're going to be a what? A cage fighter? I'm like, yeah, you know, the UFC thing. And they're like, oh, well, cool. You know, I'm in my last year and my accounting degree or my business major.
I literally got on all these TED Talks and on YouTube, and I just started YouTubing.
But wait, there's something absolutely crucial we haven't talked about yet that makes this entire situation even more explosive. What happened immediately after that fight tells a story that the UFC and mainstream media have tried to bury for years. Because here's what they don't want you to know about the aftermath of UFC 165. Jon Jones didn't just win a controversial decision that night. He went straight to the hospital and spent the next several hours getting emergency medical treatment for injuries that were far more severe than anyone realized in real time. We're talking about damage so extensive that doctors were genuinely concerned about his long-term health and ability to ever fight again.
Videos about self-belief and what does it mean to be confident? What does it mean to be a winner?
I made sure that all those kids that I was looking in the eyes, tell them that I wanted to be a UFC fighter, and the ones that doubted me or looked at me funny, I made sure that I would prove them wrong one day.
And I would watch hours and hours of Tony Robbins and Les Brown and
I'm reading a book called Relentless right now. It talks about being a cleaner.
I read that book like 3 years ago, so
It's a good book.
it's a good book.
It's a great
The medical reports that surfaced weeks later painted a picture of a man who was literally fighting on borrowed time during those final rounds. Internal bleeding, potential orbital fractures, and neurological symptoms that required immediate intervention. This wasn't just a cut that looked bad under the bright lights. This was legitimate, career-threatening trauma that should have ended the fight according to every medical protocol in combat sports. And here's the part that will make your blood boil. The Nevada State Athletic Commission knew about these injuries, had access to the medical documentation, and chose to sweep it under the rug to protect the narrative of an epic championship battle.
Think Michael Jordan, the ultimate cleaner. Michael never cared about achieving mere greatness. He cared about being the best ever. Larry Bird is a cleaner. Kobe, Dwayne, cleaners. Pat Riley, Phil Jackson, Charles Barkley. In the business world, we're talking about Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. Most presidents are cleaner. And good luck getting re-elected if you're not. Stardom doesn't make you a cleaner. Winning does. And not just winning once. You have to be able to do it again and again.
Think about the implications of what we're discussing here. If Herb Dean hadn't made that controversial decision to continue the fight, if he had listened to the ringside physician's initial assessment, Jon Jones would have lost his title that night. But more importantly, he might have avoided the extensive medical complications that followed. The question becomes whether Dean was actually protecting Jones by letting him continue, or whether he was enabling a situation that put the champion's long-term health at serious risk. This is where the story gets morally complicated and forces us to examine the dark side of combat sports entertainment. But let's dig even deeper into what was happening behind the scenes during this fight, because there are details that have never been publicly discussed until now. Multiple sources close to Jones' camp have revealed that his corner was having heated discussions between rounds about whether to throw in the towel. His longtime coach, Greg Jackson, was reportedly torn between his fighter's warrior mentality and genuine concern for his safety. The internal debate wasn't just about winning or losing a title. It was about whether continuing the fight could result in permanent damage that would affect Jones for the rest of his life. Here's where it gets absolutely insane. Jackson's game plan going into the later rounds completely changed from offensive strategy to pure survival mode. They weren't coaching Jones to win the fight anymore. They were coaching him to simply make it to the final bell without suffering catastrophic injury. The corner instructions between rounds 4 and 5 were essentially damage control, telling their fighter to avoid exchanges, clinch whenever possible, and just survive until time expired. This reveals just how compromised Jones really was, and how close the fight came to being stopped by his own team. And there's another layer to this story that involves Alexander Gustafsson's perspective, which adds a completely different dimension to the controversy. Years later, in interviews that didn't get mainstream attention, Gustafsson admitted that he was equally damaged and exhausted during those crucial moments when the doctor was examining Jones. The Swedish fighter revealed that if the fight had been stopped due to Jones' injuries, he wasn't sure he could have continued much longer himself. Both men were operating on pure adrenaline and heart, pushing their bodies far beyond what should be medically acceptable in professional competition. Gustafsson's corner was dealing with their own crisis during this same period. His face was swelling to the point where his vision was becoming compromised, and he was showing signs of serious fatigue that concerned his coaches. The irony is that while everyone was focused on whether Jones should be allowed to continue, both fighters were in conditions that probably warranted medical intervention. This raises serious questions about the standards and consistency of medical oversight in championship fights, where massive amounts of money and legacy are on the line. But here's what makes this situation truly explosive from a business perspective. The financial implications of stopping that fight would have been astronomical. We're talking about pay-per-view refunds, sponsorship complications, immediate rematch negotiations, and the complete disruption of the UFC's light heavyweight division plans. Industry insiders have suggested that the pressure to let the fight continue wasn't just about sporting integrity. There were millions of dollars and multiple business relationships hanging in the balance of that referee's decision. Dana White's reaction behind the scenes, according to multiple sources, was pure panic when it looked like the fight might be stopped. The UFC president had built an entire promotional campaign around Jones' dominance and invincibility. A doctor stoppage loss would have shattered that narrative and created immediate questions about the organization's medical protocols. The political pressure on everyone involved, from the referee to the commission officials, was unlike anything we'd seen in modern MMA up to that point. Now let's talk about something that will absolutely blow your mind about the judging controversy that followed this fight. The scorecards that were turned in that night tell a story of 3 judges who saw completely different fights. One judge had it clearly for Jones, another scored it much closer, and the third judge's scorecard revealed scoring decisions that experts are still debating today. But here's the kicker that nobody talks about. 2 of the 3 judges admitted in post-fight interviews that the visible damage and medical situation influenced their round-by-round scoring in ways that might not have been entirely objective. The psychological impact of seeing a champion in that condition, bleeding and compromised, created an unconscious bias in the judging that favored the narrative of a warrior performance over the technical reality of what was happening in each round. This isn't an accusation of corruption or intentional manipulation. It's human psychology affecting professional judgment in a high-pressure situation where millions of people are watching and careers are being decided in real time. Here's where the story takes another wild turn that connects to broader issues in modern MMA. The aftermath of UFC 165 led to significant changes in medical protocols and referee training that most fans never hear about. The Nevada State Athletic Commission implemented new guidelines for handling similar situations, essentially creating the Jones Rule that gives ringside physicians more authority in championship fights. But these changes were made quietly, without public acknowledgement of what went wrong that night. The ripple effects extended far beyond just medical procedures. Fighter contracts started including more specific language about medical stoppages and championship implications. Insurance policies were restructured to account for the financial risks of controversial referee decisions. Even broadcast production changed their approach to showing injured fighters during live events, recognizing how visual presentation could influence both judging and medical decisions in real time. But here's what's truly mind-blowing about Jon Jones' career trajectory after this near disaster. Instead of being humbled or cautious following such a close call, he became even more dominant and seemingly invincible. The psychological boost of surviving what should have been a career-ending situation appeared to give him an almost supernatural confidence in subsequent fights. He started taking more risks, being more creative, and pushing the boundaries of what was possible inside the octagon. This transformation wasn't just about improved technique or better conditioning. It was about the mental breakthrough that comes from facing your absolute worst-case scenario and surviving it. Jones had experienced the ultimate test of his warrior mentality and emerged victorious, even if it required external intervention to make it happen. That experience became the foundation for a level of self-belief that bordered on the mythical in his later championship defenses.